Okay, welcome everybody. I've got 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I would like to welcome you to the NASA Earthdata webinar, Discovering Earth Science Data and Services Using NASA's Global Change Master Directory. This is your host, Jennifer Brennan. While everybody is logging in, we have 2 polls at the bottom left and middle of the page that we'd like you to take a moment to answer if you could. There's not a submit button for the multiple choice and also for the multiple answer polling questions. So once you've selected your answer, and there are other polls at the end of the webinar, your answer has been registered. For all short answer questions, you click on the icon to the right of the box where you would type your answer, and then the answer will be sent. As I said, it's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so why don't we get started? I am the User Support and Communications Lead for the NASA Earth Science Data and Information Systems project here at Goddard Space Flight Center. And what I'd like to do is begin by going over a few housekeeping items related to the webinar. First, the audio is being broadcast not only through the computer, but also via telecom. So if you're listening in by telephone, please be sure to mute or to turn off your computer speakers. This also applies to your built-in speakers. There's a speaker icon for PCs at the bottom right-hand corner of your desktop in the menu bar. If you left-click, you should be able to mute that. For Macs, you can find this in your settings. The conference has been placed in silent mode, so the speaker will not be able to hear you. I do this to maximize the best possible audio experience. If you have any issues or any questions, you can feel free to enter them in the Q&A pod. You can see my cursor here in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. This works like a chat. So any questions or any issues that you have, please type them here. Okay? The webinar is recorded, and we will post this to our Earthdata Adobe Connect catalog within a few days of completion. So I will email everybody with that link, and we will also provide the link to the participants and the registrants at the end of the webinar. Additionally, all of the presentation files will be available for download at the end of the webinar. And if you are listening in to the webinar after it takes place, the files will still be available. They will persist not only through the live recording, but also online when you view the recording later. Okay, the webinar is 1 hour long. We have allocated 45 minutes to the presentation and live demonstration, and then we have a 15-minute question and answer period. So after the speaker has finished his presentation, what we'll do is we'll then move to the final set of polling questions. And just one note, please be sure to stay on the line and or stay in the meeting room to participate in the question and answer period. That will directly follow the last set of polls. And depending upon the number of or the volume of questions we receive, what I will do is extend the question and answer period an additional 15 minutes to 3:15 for those of you who wish to stay on the line. Otherwise, we'll end, right at 3 p.m. As I mentioned earlier, you'll have an opportunity to ask your questions throughout by using the Q&A pod. But what we'll do is we'll plan to answer all of the questions verbally at the end of this webinar. Due to the number of participants, the questions will not be answered using the raising hand function. That has been disabled. Okay, what I'd like to do now is move on to the agenda. The first 10 minutes or so will provide you with an overview of the NASA Global Change Master Directory, its mission, collaborations, and metadata types. The next 10 minutes have been allocated with providing the participants with an overview for the key search features and functionality, as well as the portals. And then what we'll do is we'll wrap up with an overview of the Global Change Master Directory docBUILDER tool, as well as other ways that users can contribute to the GCMD. We will then transition to a live demonstration. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Tyler Stevens, who is the Science Coordinator at the Global Change Master Directory. Tyler?
Well, thank you everyone for the webinar today, and thank you, Jennifer, for that introduction. I just want to introduce myself again. As Jennifer mentioned, I am the science coordinator and one of the Earth Science coordinators at the Global Change Master Directory. And in this role, I primarily serve as helping users, especially the EOS data centers, in contributing and helping them get their metadata into GCMD. In addition, with working with EOS data centers, I work with other U.S. and international organizations to get their Earth Science metadata into GCMD and help them write their metadata and any other questions the users have in contributing metadata, or helping users also find Earth Science data, helping them search a directory and finding Earth Science data that they need in the directory. So we'll go ahead and get started. So the GCMD mission, so the primary mission of the GCMD is to assist the user community in the discovery of Earth Science data, related services, and ancillary information. So this includes information about platforms, instruments, projects, and data and service providers. And we achieve this through a website that provides discovery and collection level metadata. I'll talk more about the metadata in a moment. So the goal is to provide a high-quality database where scientists can go and discover data, collect data, and disseminate that data for their research and analysis. So one common misconception about the GCMD is that we just provide NASA's metadata collections. That's actually not true. And GCMD has long-standing collaborations with numerous organizations, both with U.S. agencies, academics, and international agencies as well. As this slide shows a snapshot of some of our collaborations. The NASA EOS DIST is our primary collaborator. In addition, the Committee on Earth Observation Satellites, International Directory Network, CEOS-IDN, is our primary international collaborator. Another major collaborator is SCADM, which is the Standing Committee on Antarctic Data Management. And this is an international effort to make available Antarctic research data holdings. And the slide shows many other collaborations that we continue to work with, and we can also continue to build new collaborations with the scientific and academic community. And as I mentioned, many of these collaborations have been going on over 10, 15 plus years. So as seen on this list, GCMD also attends various conferences and meetings to promote our services and assist the user community in finding Earth Science data and services. As seen in some of the meetings listed here, we have discussions with folks and people about metadata, data discovery, how to find and search metadata best practices, and other related metadata activities that are being discussed within the science community. Just for example, just the other week, GCMD attended the ESIP meeting, the Earth Science Information Partners meeting in D.C., where we discussed metadata standards and our web service APIs that the user community is using to access data, and we also discuss improvements on how users can get access to data and services within the GCMD. Excuse me. So to drive the search and discovery of data and services in the GCMD, we maintain a 5-level hierarchy of controlled keywords for Earth Science data and a 3-level keyword hierarchy for data services. The GCMD has about 1,850 science keywords and 166 service keywords. So the benefit of controlled keywords is that they offer a hierarchical structure that ensures metadata are keyed in a consistent manner. And I'll show an example of that later using the docBUILDER metadata authoring tool. So the keywords also allow for the precise search of the metadata and subsequent retrieval of those data and services. So this slide shows an example of a human dimensions keyword that goes from the top level keyword down through variable level 1, variable level 2, and variable level 3. And as you see, as you go down, the more detail is provided throughout the hierarchy. And the URL on the slide, gcmd.nasa.gov/learn/keywords. You can go to that URL and find more information about how to suggest additions or changes to the keywords, and also other information about the keywords and downloading the keywords. So to give some more background on metadata, as I mentioned previously, earlier in the presentation, GCMD offers discovery and series collection level metadata. And we do not offer granular metadata, but link to many of the EOS disk granules through the discovery collection metadata. So discovery metadata is primarily metadata elements that provide sufficient information about the data to determine whether a particular data set or data service is useful for a user's needs. The series collection metadata, which are metadata elements that describe an entire set of data files, and the data set granular metadata, and these are metadata elements that describe a single instance of a data file. And I'll show more examples of the discovery and series collection level metadata in a few moments. So within the GCMD, we have three metadata formats. We have DIF, Directory Interchange Format, which is used for describing earth science and climate data. SURF, the Service Entry Resource Format, primarily for describing earth science-related tools, software, and models. And CD, Climate Diagnostics, for describing climate visualizations. All of these formats have evolved based on community feedback all the way back since 1987, when the DIF format was created by the Catalog Interoperability Working Group, which consisted of several U.S., federal, and international agencies. And on our website, you can find more information and a writer's guide for these three metadata formats and all the fields associated with those metadata formats. So next we will talk about the search functionality within the GCMD. So when you go to the GCMD homepage, you will see the search is divided into three categories: data sets, services and tools, and ancillary descriptions. And you can also do a search by free text directly from the homepage. And also just to mention, just last spring, the homepage and the search interface was recently designed based on feedback and based on the different user surveys that we did in terms of deciding what is best for search and how users are getting access and when to get access to data and services. So the search interface. So when you click on one of the categories, you're directed to the interface page. So when you click on one of the categories, for example, the data sets box, you're directed to the search interface page, where the search menu allows users to click the tab and immediately begin searching by a specific category. For example, science keywords, instruments, platforms, locations, providers, projects, map date, and free text. And just to note that during the website redesign, we kept some of the same look and feel. For example, the keywords that you see here in the window on the web page, that design looks similar. That design is similar to our legacy website. So we didn't want to shock users with a totally redesigned website. So that therefore we kept some of these same look and feel, so it would not be a large shock to users. And eventually we'll transition even this to a more clean redesigned interface. So for the search refinements, so when you get to the keyword page, you have the option to search you have the option to search within a category using the keywords provided, or by clicking on the numbers located on the side of the keyword in that category. So as seen in the screenshots, when you click on the number next to the keyword, you are taken to the refinement page, which is the screenshot on the lower hand of the slide. So from here you can continue to refine your search. So the search refinements. So in addition to the science keyword search, you can refine your search by free text, spatial search, and temporal search. In the free text search box, You can do a Boolean. You can do Boolean and fielded searches. Within the spatial search, you can use the Google Maps to draw a bounded box around your area of interest and apply that to your search refinement. And the temporal search allows you to search by a specific time range. And I'll give a demo of all these in a few moments during the demonstration part of the webinar. So in addition to the science keyword search, you can refine your search. In addition to searching by data sets and data services, you can also search by ancillary descriptions, which, as I mentioned previously in the presentation, includes platforms, instruments, data centers, and projects. So note on this slide the description for Aqua Platform, which provides you with the details on the platform, orbit information, and also a link to all the data sets associated with Aqua. So when you click on that associated data sets links, it takes you back to the data sets interface, and you can see all the metadata descriptions that have been tagged with the Aqua platform. And with the project description is a description for the EOS disk. And within the Ancillary Descriptions interface, you can filter through the list of the descriptions. And as I mentioned previously, also in demonstration, I will show you the search interface. So lastly, talking about the search, you can also search using portals. And the portals within the GCMD are virtual subsets of the directory that provides a customizable view of data and services. And the portals are usually a subset, the portals are usually considered a subset by either a particular project, a platform, or a science discipline. So for example, on this slide, I have 3 different examples of portals. So on the bottom left-hand side is the ESIP portal, which are just data sets and services related to the ESIP project. On the top right is the CEOS IDN, International Directory Network, which is our primary international collaborator that we work with. And those are just the collections from those international providers through the CEOS IDN. On the screenshot on the bottom right is the EOS disk collections. So this portal, the EOS disk portal are just the collections from the EOS disk data centers. So for anyone who is interested in portals for their particular project or discipline, please contact us and we'll be able to assist you in getting the portal for any metadata collections that you have in the GCMD. So we can work with you if you're interested in portals. So speaking about metadata contributions, next I'm going to talk to you about how you can contribute metadata to GCMD. So there are many ways that users can contribute metadata. So the most common way is by using our docBUILDER metadata authoring tool. Users can also work with us to harvest their metadata. And this is most commonly used. The most commonly used standard for harvesting is OAI PMH. We also have a new bulk metadata uploader tool. We also have the Metadata Web Service, and then also file transfer protocol. And there are also other ways that users can contribute metadata to the GCMD. There's many other ways, and we can work with individual users and their requirements in getting their metadata within the GCMD. So our primary contribution method is docBUILDER. And this is our online metadata authoring tool, which is designed for authors to add or modify their data set descriptions, their data service descriptions, and also the climate diagnostic descriptions, the 3 metadata formats that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. So this tool allows you to log in, and I'll talk more about that in a moment, to log in using this tool allows you to add control vocabulary and provides a validation of controlled fields and syntax, and provides a visual checklist of required, highly recommended, and recommended fields to populate. As I mentioned, this tool requires a login using the NASA EOS disk user registration system, and this is a NASA EOS disk wide user registration system. So for the folks on the line who already have an EOS disk an account, they can use that account to log into docBUILDER. If not, you can go to earthdata.nasa.gov and sign up for an account there. It's a free account, and it only takes a few moments to sign up for that account. And the link to docBUILDER is shown here on the bottom of the slide presentation. So this slide shows a screenshot of the docBUILDER interface, and as you can see here, this clearly shows the fields to populate, which include the required, highly recommended, and recommended fields. And as you go through docBUILDER and populate the fields, a little checkbox is checked off. So for example, here on the slide, Entry ID is already checked off. When you initially go into the docBUILDER interface, you're required to provide the unique entry ID of your data set or data service description, and that field is automatically populated when you add that, which then takes you to the docBUILDER interface. And as you go through each of the fields, those boxes are checked off. So as I mentioned earlier, we also have a relatively new tool, the Bulk Metadata Uploader. And this tool allows users to upload multiple diff records to the metadata queue. And also from here, you can validate your records. And when you upload your file and submit your records, you will get an email back with the verification results, with the validation results. If you just submit your records for validation, you will get a validation result and any errors associated with your metadata. If you actually submit your metadata to the queue, you will get an email result showing the status of your upload to our metadata queue. And if you're interested in testing our new tool, please see the contact information, and we will work with you if you would like to test this new tool. So another way that several of our partners are contributing metadata is via harvesting, and this is using the OAI PMH mechanism, which is the Open Archives Initiative protocol for metadata harvesting. And this method is useful for providers who maintain a large number of records in their external repositories. So for example, for users who don't want to use docBUILDER one by one to submit records, several providers have an entire collection of the diff metadata records in XML, and can just use this OAI PMH to get that metadata to GCMD. So providers expose their metadata via the OAI PMH server, and then the service provider, for example here, GCMD, requests to harvest the metadata. And we harvest that metadata on a regular basis, whatever interval that you determine that is needed, depending on how frequently your metadata is updated. And then the metadata from there gets ingested into our metadata queue. So our Metadata Web Service, this is one of our APIs within the GCMD. And this API provides the ability to send XML metadata records to the GCMD queue for validated and loading. And if you see the URL on the bottom of the slide, gcmd.nasa.gov/connect, you can find information about how to use these APIs to submit metadata to GCMD. And also to note, these Metadata Web Service APIs also use the NASA EOS-DIS user registration account required to access that service. So as I mentioned, there's also several other ways users can contribute metadata to the GCMD. I'm not going to go through each one of those. We can discuss that during the question and answer period if you have any specific questions about other methods for contributing metadata. But I also thought it would be useful to end this section by sharing with you our metadata submission lifecycle. So when a user submits a metadata record, it doesn't go directly into the GCMD database. There is a process. So first, within the docBUILDER or your contribution way, the record gets validated and submitted to the metadata queue, which is the queue that the GCMD science coordinators use to delegate who's responsible for reviewing the metadata. And this is the review beyond the XML syntax. So the review that the science coordinators do to ensure consistency and quality metadata in a directory is checking for the appropriate science context. content. For example, if a record describes a particular science discipline, to make sure that the record is keyed precisely and correctly with the right science keywords or tagged with the right or proper project or platform. And also to review the summary to make sure that is complete and sufficient. And to check and see is that as many fields as possible are populated. So the more fields that are populated, the easier it will be for users, the public, to discover those earth science data and services. So that's the quality, that's the science quality component that the GCMD brings when reviewing and ensuring the quality and consistency of the metadata. So once the metadata, as I mentioned, the metadata goes through this queue, and then once that goes through that quality review, those records get loaded into the GCMD, which are then searchable through our search interface. And then from there, the process starts all over again, so the user can either use our docBUILDER metadata authoring tool or the other contribution methods that I mentioned to update the records and continue that process within GCMD. And I mentioned the user role within that process, and then the science coordinator role within that process. So next we're going to switch to the live demonstration part of the webinar. So first, I'd like to highlight the GCMD homepage for the webinar. Sorry about that. And as previously mentioned, the homepage points users to the three primary search interfaces: the data sets, the data services, and the ancillary descriptions. You can also search by free text directly from the homepage in this area. The top navigation bar will take you to various subpages to the GCMD, and we also, on the bottom right side of the page, we have a highlights box. And this page is generally to provide any updates on GCMD activities, software releases, relevant earth science news, portal of the month, any other information that that may be of interest to the science community user, to the science user. So I also mentioned that we did not make dramatic changes from the previous version of the GCMD website. And so as I go here and click on Data Sets and Data Services, as I also mentioned earlier in the presentation part, we have these tabs across the top. So right now, you're initially taken into the science keyword view of the presentation. So if you click across the top hand tab, it takes you across the multiple keywords, instruments, platforms, locations. So you can start your search among any of these areas that you think is appropriate for your search. So I want to go ahead and do a couple example searches of within the GCMD. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Human Dimensions, and once I click on Human Dimensions, I'm taken to the next level within the keyword hierarchy. So next I'm interested in population, and then I'm also interested from here in population size. So once I get down to the level of the keyword hierarchy, then I'm presented with the refinement view, and this is the new interface for searching within GCMD that was part of the next generation website, which I mentioned was released last fall. So on the left-hand side here is the refinement windows, and from here you can refine by free text, by category, which are all the different keywords, science keywords, and if you also want to search by spatial search, click on this little tab here, and the Google Maps box pops up, where you can refine your search further, and also temporal search. these little widgets here on the left-hand side open and close, and you can search further down that way too. So we got down here to population size. And I also want to mention right here, you see the number next to the keywords, and these dynamically update dependent on your search. So I just changed the search, and the box and this area on the right-hand side dynamically change based on your search refinements. So I want to click on one of these records right here. So I'm interested in these U.S. Census grids, and this. So once I click on this, once I click on the list of titles, this brings up one of the Earth Science Description Metadata Records, which describes this particular data set from CDAC, the Socioeconomic Data Center. And this record has, as you see here, the summary information about the data set, and I can click here if I want to view the full abstract information. The related URL, which provides the direct access to that data. So if I click here, I can this will take me to the download page of that data set at CDAC. So I'm going to go back here to the GCMD and also show some other information. This is the spatial coverage of this particular data set, primarily the U.S. Other information, the data set citation information, a link to other resources, sample coverage information, data resolution, and other relevant information, other relevant discovery information about this particular data set. You see there's some quality information, access, use constraints information. So the user populates as much of this information as possible to help further do a search. And also, if you have any questions about the particular data set, the technical contact information for this data set. So I'm going to go out of this data set. So I'm going to do an example of another search. So I want to go back to the GCMD homepage. And from here, I'm going to start by doing a free text search. So say I'm interested in Modus. So I'm going to, I type Modus in the search box. And initially here, I'm presented with over 1,000 records. But I like to narrow my search. So I'm just interested in searching for Modus from the Aqua platform. So if I go here in the left-hand refinement, this is going to take me to the list of platforms, and this is the ERPS observation platform. So I apologize for the delay here. We're on the wireless, so this may not be as fast. But if I drill down here in my search, then I'm presented with this particular metadata record here. And this is a train integrated Calypso CloudSat and Modus product within the a record that I searched using Modus with the platform Aqua. You can see here that's tagged here in the platform. So by doing that search, I also wanted to. Okay, so then I want to go back here. I'm going to go back to the home page. I like to show one other feature. So, for example, if I'm in here doing a search, so I'm just going to go here under Atmosphere and pull up these records. So, in addition to doing a keyword search refinement from the home page, I can also do a refinement here. So if I'm here under Atmosphere, and obviously there's over 7,000 collections here, and I want to narrow that down further. So if I want to search, if I'm interested in Atmosphere, I'm interested in snow. So the free text box, I can type in snow, and then from there, click Refine, and that refines my search for all the records that have the keyword snow. So within the free text here, on the left-hand side, it's refining the search, and the results dynamically show up here. And all these records, for example, here for my free text pertain to snow. Excuse me. So the next search I'm going to do is an example of a services and tool. So the service interface is similar to our data sets. You can refine by a particular keyword, a platform, a project. So I want to do an example of a search, and like I said, this is very similar to the data and to the data set search. So if I go under data sets and visualizations, geographic information systems, I'm interested here in refining my search by web-based. So now, for example, here, by doing that search, I get a list of 276 records. And so I'm just going to pull up an example of a service description. And this is an example of a global forest watch near real-time forest monitoring system. And this is very, the description looks similar to a data description. Information about this particular service, a link to the service, the keywords covering the service description, and also science keywords highlighted, and the science keyword science discipline related to that service. If you click through this, I'm not going to click down through the whole thing, but information about the service provider and contact information about the service provider. And also really briefly, I'm going to mention, as I mentioned, ancillary descriptions. So as I mentioned, you can filter through service descriptions, very similar to searching under data sets and data services. So just really quickly here, I like to go under Earth observation satellites, click to view more, and this will pull out a list of all the Earth observation satellites. So that's why I apologize again for the delay here. Sometimes the wireless in this area is not slow. But so if you pulled up an example of one of these instruments, one of these platforms, it provides you with information about the platform, or with information about the platform, the description of the platform, launch information, and also here, as I mentioned earlier, view-related data sets. You can click on this and get all the descriptions associated with that particular platform. So lastly here, I'm going to go to the docBUILDER metadata authoring tool and very briefly show that the metadata tool here. So when you first go to the docBUILDER page, depending on what record you're interested in authoring, a data set, a data service, a project, a platform, or a climate diagnostic record, you would click on that particular one. So here I'm going to start clicking on data sets, and as I mentioned, this is the area where you would put in your user registration name and password. So I enter my user registration information in, and I'm taken to the docBUILDER preview page. So here I'm going to just, I already created a test record here just for the purpose of this demo, but this is where you would enter your unique document identifier for your data set description. So once I enter that information here, I click continue, and this will take me into the initial docBUILDER interface for where you would go in and author your data set description. So as I mentioned, this field is already populated. We already entered the entry ID in here. So that field is checked off. So you would go ahead through here, and just as an example I want to show, so you populate the entry title, you click continue, and then that field becomes checked off. That's a required field that's checked off and completed. So through the authoring process, you go in and you select, like for example here, these are all, you select the science keyword related to your, related to your description that you're authoring. You can add multiple keywords, of course, and then also another example. So you can add your data center and your contact information. So if your data center is already in the database, then you just add the data center, click accept, information's populated. Same thing with the personnel information. If that's already in a database, you can go and automatically add that. You can go in here and add that. It's automatically populated. If your information is not already in the database, then you can enter it and then it's saved. So next time you don't have to repeat that again. It's already in the database and saved. So that field is populated. You can see that's checked off here. And as you go in and populate these records, this field will check off. So when you're finished your record and you're ready to validate and submit, so if you go under Document, you can click here and validate documents and links. So if you click on that, of course this is going to fail because the record is not complete. There's still required fields that are necessary before you can submit your record. But if you had a valid record, after this checks for the syntax, XML, make sure everything is properly filled in, and then that would pass if you had all the information. Then once your document passed validation, then you would go over here to the right inside, enter your email address, and click OK. And then your metadata record would be, I'm going to cancel that, but then your metadata record would be sent onto the queue, where then it's reviewed for the science quality components. And once again, also one more thing to note too, if you do need information about what's in the record itself, just click this little I next to here. This takes you to information about that particular field. So if you want to know more about that particular field that you're populating within the docBUILDER authoring tool, you can click on the little I description next to that. So this concludes the demonstration part of the webinar, and I want to turn it back over to Jennifer.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, everyone. So what we'll do right now is we're going to move to the final set of polling questions. Just a reminder, we will take all question and answers verbally once the polling questions have been completed. So after you answer your questions, this is a good time to take a really quick break if you need one. We'll move directly from this piece to the question and answer period, which will follow. Okay, so be sure to stay on the line and or stay in the meeting room. All right, I'm going to give it just a couple minutes here. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to give the polling questions just another minute or two, and then we will jump to the question and answer period, which again, the conference is in silent mode, so you'll ask any of your questions by way of the Q&A pod, okay, which works again like a chat. And we will have two individuals, Tyler and one of his colleagues, Scott Ritz, available to answer those questions for you. All right. Okay, everybody, we are going to move to the question and answer period. All right. If you have any feedback for the polls or any feedback in general, after this I will provide a contact information slide, which is also listed here down below if you'd like to upload in the lower right-hand corner the presentation file. So let me scroll back up to the top here and see what we've got as far as questions are concerned. All right. All right, let's see here. So far, I'm not seeing any questions. Let's see. Anybody have any questions? Any questions? Remember that the webinar itself is still in silent mode. I can try and remove that for you to ask your questions verbally, although there could be feedback. So we could try that and see if that's better. Let's try that out. Hold on, everybody. We may not be able to maintain speaking mode due to feedback, but we'll check.
The conference is now in talk mode.
Okay, any questions from any of the participants? You are off mute, so you can feel free to ask those questions verbally. Anybody? Wow.
I have a question. This is Christina from the National Climatic Data Center.
Hi, Christina. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi. You said you kept the interface pretty much like the old look. When are you going to upgrade it to the newer look?
So, in terms of the upgrade, as I mentioned, the home page and a lot of the navigation, especially the refinement, has changed. The only thing that we kept similar was that initial page that shows the keywords and that refinement. But everything else in terms of the website interface is new. We have no immediate plans to actually change that because a lot of the users like that. But probably in a future iteration of the website, we will look at some of the technology that's out there in terms of how best to present that search information to the user and then change that page there. But the other page, like the refinement page that I showed you with the left-hand refinement and then the right-hand side, all that's new, and a lot of people seem to like that so far. So no immediate plans, but we'll have to see the technology that's out there in terms of how best to present that information to the user.
Okay, thanks. You got a new capability capabilities are looking great. I have another question about converting to different standards,
Right.
like ISO. Is that a capability that you're going to add?
Yes. Well, right now, actually, we provide that capability. It's not directly clear, and there's no at this time. There's no actually GUI. We plan in the future to provide a GUI, but actually, for several partners that we already work with, they have metadata in either the SGGC or, as you mentioned, ISO, and we have XSLTs that we use to translate between translate from ISO to diff. So we're actually working with some partners on that right now. So we can work with you on getting that metadata translated to diff. But it'd be nice in the future to actually have like a tool where the user inputs the ISO and then translate that to diff. That's not available as a GUI, but we can work with you individually to get your metadata translated to diff.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tyler. Any other questions? You can either type your question into the Q&A pod, or you could ask it verbally. Okay, why don't I go ahead and provide the contact information here. Any other questions, anybody? Going once, going twice? You can always feel free to either email me, jennifer.l.brennan@nasa.gov, or by all means, contact one of the science coordinators or any of the staff on this contact slide that I'm about to put up. All right. And I do want to thank everybody for joining us today.
I also do want to thank everyone for joining the presentation and for Jennifer for hosting the webinar.
Hey, Mary Jo, you had a question? Mary Jo? Let's move back here for a second. All right, let's okay, let's see here, hold on a second. What is the ordering? Here's a question that I missed, I'm sorry. What is the ordering for results in the refinement window?
So right now, I believe it's by update date. So the newest records or the most recently updated records are sorted, and that is the algorithm that we use right now to sort the records. We've actually discussed internally of having different ways to sort the records, either in alphabetical order or by other relevant information, but currently the update or the most updated data is the current way that things are sorted in the list.
Okay, so Mary Jo, if that answered your question, could you type that into the chat box, the Q&A pod? And then I have another question here. And this question is, you did not cover uploading actual data. Do you plan to cover that at a later time? Tyler or Scott?
So to clarify, we don't actually, within the GCMD, have data. We only have the metadata describing the data, and we have no plan to actually have data in the GCMD, just the metadata records, which point to data on external websites and such. So did I answer your question?
Okay, and then there's another question from Dennis. Dennis, yes, the recording will be available online at the URL that you see here. Eventually this will actually be hosted on a NASA server, but currently all of the archived webinars are posted along with all of the presentation files at the tinyurl.com Earthdata webinar. You could always email me or again the speaker with any questions. All right, so let me see. Another question by Julie. Julie, hi, can users upload data? Tyler or Scott?
As I mentioned, we are not a data directory, just a metadata directory, which users can contribute metadata to GCMD, not metadata, but within the metadata, we can point to your external repositories, your external data. So just GCMD just has the metadata collections, not the data itself.
But one of the ways that I describe, although nobody really is using card catalogs anymore, but the global change master directory is kind of like the card catalog of data products. So it'll point you to where the data is located or where it's housed, but not necessarily retrieving the data product itself from that particular listing or entry. All right, let's see if I have any further. If you've lost audio, that would be because, let's see, you may need to, can people still hear?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
All right, let's see if we have any further questions. Any further questions?
Wanted to ask you about any other upcoming webinars.
Well, so we will have, I'll actually be the speaker. We will have a webinar, and that is going to be on, it should be uploaded soon to our catalog on February 12th. It's an off-schedule webinar, more of an introductory, how to discover, find, and access NASA's EOS data holdings. So that I will highlight some of the sort of primary data search and order and data discovery tools, GCMD being one. I will possibly highlight a couple of the very user-friendly data center specific tools, as well as provide an overview for the disciplines that are covered, provide the participants with information on, how many data centers we have, what types of data sets, the general range of temporal and spatial coverage, of course, does vary by instrument and by, platform, launch date, and when the first data became available, et cetera. But I will cover that on February 12th. I will also be posting, we've recently created a listserv where participants can sign up to receive future announcements for upcoming webinars. So that should be on our catalog homepage within the next couple of days, so that you could either send me an email directly, or you can sign up to the listserv, which is just providing your first and last name and your email address, and I will always send you, an announcement with the upcoming webinars. So that should be helpful. Does anybody have any further questions? Let me take a scroll down here and check it out. I don't see further questions. Give it just another minute or two. Don't be shy. We've lost a few people. Any questions? Well, I certainly do. Thank you for joining us today. It was great to have you, and perhaps we will see you, or you will join us for an upcoming webinar. All right, the room will be open for a few more minutes if you're interested in downloading the presentation files. I will actually put this back onto the contact information. Of course, feel free to email me if you have any questions, and I will send you to the GCMD point of contacts. All right, well, thanks so much. We'll stay in the room for just another 5 minutes or so, okay, everybody? But I will log off the telecon, so thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye now.